what would happen if Belcornell were to receive a certain sword and be able to use the same powers as a certain someone? Now, the certain someone would be none other than Sosuke Aizen, the person who deceived all of the Gote 13 and was on par with intelligence to Urahara Kisuke. Or, I mean, at least a little bit lower, since he stated himself that Urahara was smarter. He's pretty much on par with Urahara himself. So, yeah, we're going to be going over that in this What If. Honestly, I actually haven't done the Damachi What If. So, it's going to be the first time. And, hopefully it goes well. But without further ado, guys, roll that intro. So we pretty much start this What If when Bell had just came to Orario. He had been rejected by multiple familias, and he didn't really have any of the powers Aizen had yet, since he's gonna be getting that soon, which we'll be going over in a few seconds or minutes. But pretty much he would be walking around as he would come upon a welding shop. As he would walk up to it, and he would pretty much see this blade. It would have been the same Suba, the green Suba, which is pretty much the handle, if you guys don't know what a Suba is. And it would have the same delicate, sharp blade of it. And for some reason, Bell was very enticed to pick it up. So he would, pick up the sword as he would start examining it, and the shop owner was kind of shocked. This was the cursed sword from a millennia ago. So pretty much what will be happening is people like Bleach characters like Aizen or the Soul King, the events that took place, it'll be thousands, maybe millions of years before the events of Damachi. I know that doesn't make sense, since Damachi seems more of a regressed society, not actual modernized, but just roll with it. As he'd pick up the sword, as he would look at the shopkeeper, as he would say, so what's wrong? As pretty much he would say, that's the cursed sword of Sosuke Aizen. No one has actually been able to hold it and live, but it seems you're quite compatible for it. So, would you like me to explain what the sword does? Since the sword abilities were explained throughout the history of, the world itself. And he would explain that the sword has this ability called Ultimate Hypnosis, which pretty much, once casted, puts the user or puts the opponent under their hypnosis. And before Aizen, or Sosuke, depends on, you could say Sosuke, you could say Aizen, I don't care. But pretty much, he would start to explain to the Bell that back then he would have to say shatter Kyoka Suigetsu, but due to his evolution, now you don't even have to say it. You just look at your opponent and he's under your Kyoka Suigetsu. As the shop owner would say, try it on me. As pretty much Bell would look at the sword, as he would feel this this wave of power course into his veins, as pretty much he would look towards the shop owner, as he would try to make the shop owner hallucinate that all the gods and goddesses appeared in front of him, which he would do exactly that. The shop owner would start to hallucinate as he would open his eyes, and he would see all the gods and goddesses there, like Hestia, Lady Hephaestus, or Hermes. As he would say, oh, that's interesting ability, being able to, manipulate my perception to hallucinate me seeing all of the gods and goddesses. As he would say, yeah, that's exactly what I did. As he would sheathe the blade, and obviously the effect would wear off. Being able, if you sheathe the blade, you would kind of cancel the ability out, and he would actually have the intention of canceling said ability. But after him getting the weapon and all, he would head back, and he'd be walking through And he just walked up to another familia, offered to join. It was one of the weaker familias, because when he first came into Orario, he started to go for like the Freya familia, the Loki familia, and they kind of rejected him. So pretty much he would come along, Hestia, and he would still join her familia just like per usual. So when Hestia was giving Belle her Felna, or the blessing, something weird would happen. He would have suddenly gained all these magic abilities which were all unknown, as pretty much specifically the ability was to make, I guess, magic from your soul energy in a sense, because Keto itself, you're literally just imagining something and it's coming into life itself. For example, Hado number 99, Koryo Tenmetsu, you're literally imagining 5 dragons coming from the ground. That's you're just manifesting your soul energy. So Belle would be able to get access to that, and it would just be defined as something else. As Hestia, remember a few million years ago, there was people who managed to do said abilities, and she was quite shocked. And the fact that he has a sword which puts someone under like complete hypnosis. So let's just say the usual Belle we know is not gonna be as, I guess, he's gonna have more charisma. Honestly, I like charisma for some reason. Being able to control what someone does just from the tone of your voice, it's a wonderful ability. So in which Hestia would tell Belle that he can make whatever he wants with magic. If he wanted to, he can make a dragon or a fire, I guess you can say, or any elemental. You just have to put your mind to it. As Belle would say, yeah, I'm gonna go practice that. As Hestia would wait up for me. As honestly, not gonna lie, like I'm still kind of confused why Hestia like wears sandals. And even though she's not allowed to go to the dungeon and all, and there wouldn't be any purpose, I don't know, some of the gods and goddesses, random tangent, they kind of just give me a weird vibe, honestly. And most I kind of just, like, when I first watched it, I kind of despised the system of gods and goddesses. Small tangent though, like I said. It's just how like after they defeat the dragon, the black dragon, I think they're called, they just go up, and I guess the humans would have passed their test, and it kind of seemed pointless, but it is what it is. So Belle would spend, I guess, maybe the next 1 week, like the next week or 2 weeks, just training on his magic abilities, being able to, I guess, number one, gain his fire pulse, since he's still in the Hestia familia, I guess, and he also still imagined having fire and lightning, but this would just be more powerful due to him, I guess, being able to access his own soul energy. But we're gonna go to a specific time. Now, Belle would have been, I guess, doing magic, I guess, or keto, it's called, and he would have been completely depleted of his energy when suddenly he would pass out. Obviously, he was depleted of his energy. So what happened is he would appear in this mindscape, and obviously he would look towards the right, and he would see this weird guy sitting in a chair, and his clothes were oddly weird in that time, since nobody really had his fashion. Obviously, this is Aizen. He's sealed to his chair. That's what I mean by chair. I'm probably gonna put a picture of Aizen. Like, I'm gonna crop it on the edit. So yeah, so you guys know what I'm talking about. Where pretty much Aizen would say, "Hello, Mr. Cornell." As obviously, since this time I'm gonna have it where Aizen, instead of like the actual Kyoka Suigetsu, if you actually search up Kyoka Suigetsu spirit, you actually see art where it is show Kyoka Suigetsu on the Bleach wiki. But in this time, I'm just gonna have actually like Aizen in this Zanpakuto, since he fused with his Zanpakuto, so it'd be more realistic if Aizen was there rather than Kyoka Suigetsu herself. So pretty much Aizen would say, "Hello, Mr. Cornell. I see you came upon my sword." And the fact that you managed to live even after the fact that you're supposed to die unless you're worthy. So it seems I'm gonna have to like take care of you and train you in a sense. As he'd say, Belle would say, "Yeah, that's cool and all, but like, what's your name?" As he would like kind of shake the back of his head. Like Belle would. As it would have been like a sweatshop in a sense, and he would say, "Forgive me for not showing manners." He would say, "I'm Sosuke Aizen." As Belle would kind of remember him from one of the stories, back then, as Aizen, he remembered Aizen was like a criminal and all. And if you guys don't know, his sentence is up, by the way. Like, it's been like over 20,000 years. If you don't know, Aizen was sentenced to 18,800 years until he insulted the Central 46 judge, saying, hey, people like you declaring judgment on me, that's comical. And then he literally got 20,000 years. Like, broski, that guy was pressed. I'm just kidding. But basically, you remember that Aizen tried to take over the god who pretty much started all gods. This god obviously would have been the Soul King, the Prime Soul King. And he remembers stories about how the Soul King, the Ryu, pretty much became friends even with Ra, the sun god, the god of from Egyptian mythology. And pretty much Ra was stated to be one of the strongest gods ever, and for the Ryu to easily beat him and then befriend him, it was a feat by itself. And to see Aizen, someone who could actually take over the Soul King's place, was fascinating. As obviously how the gods and goddesses were created, it was because due to the lack of, I guess, presence in the Soul Society. They saw, like, they were created because there was basically no gods or deities there to basically keep order. So whoever was, I guess, present at that time created the gods and goddesses that we see in DanMachi to this day. So before I go any more tangent time, this is kind of like the introduction part. So if you guys like this series, obviously, it'll, receive good attention. But basically, Aizen would, start to explain that it appears like, someone's watching us. They would have a long conversation. As Bell would say, watching us? I don't see any reason for them to watch us. As Aizen would say, I'll deal with it. Obviously, the person who's watching him is none other than Freya, since he, since I always get my pronouns wrong, but since she heard that Bell had received the sword of Sosuke Aizen, she was kind of interested in Bell himself. Obviously, Bell was already interesting due to the fact that he received the magic ability that pretty much gives you constant evolution. It's like limitless potential at that point. So Aizen would suddenly appear in front of Freya in the Tower of Babel. I think that's how I say it. But he would, he would then say, hello. As he would say, he would be interrupted by Freya saying, I know who you are, but still introduce yourself. As Aizen would say, comical. Because, comical, basically, it's funny how she thinks she can interrupt him, even though she's, like, weaker. Since, like, honestly, like I said, I didn't think I said this before, but if we're actually giving the gods and goddesses in DanMachi their mythological power, they would completely solo the Bleachverse. But we don't know their power levels, so for now, let's just say they're weaker than Aizen. I guess that's more of a logical point to say. As Aizen would then say, I see you take an interest in Belcranel, not specifically because of the sword he wields, but it seems you're interested in because of power he has within himself. But I see, I went through his memories, and I can see he is the grandson of, the gods of all gods, Zeus. I kind of did a spoiler, but that's my bad. But basically, Freya would be surprised since nobody really knows that, only Hermes and herself, and maybe some other high-tier gods, like the god of all the dungeon, but never mind. But pretty much, Freya would be like, how do you know that? As Aizen say, I'm Sosuke Aizen, what do I not know? I went through Belcranel's memories since I am pretty much merged with his soul due to him holding my blade. I became attached to his soul. Don't think anything like that. But basically, he would say, I'm gonna warn you once and only once. I know what your plans are, or I can predict your plans, but I'm gonna say this right here. You should, back off. As Freya would, get up, as she would walk over to Aizen. As Aizen would get up, summon his sword. As they would kind of have a stare down with Aizen gaining his purple aura. As Freya would kind of try to use her charm on Aizen. But Aizen be like, interesting. You try to use your charm on me? I don't believe that works. Your charm only works on people who become infatuated with you, or the charm actually makes them infatuated with you. But I don't believe that parlor trick actually works on me. Throughout all the years I've been a Soul Reaper, I've seen many people who carry abilities like yours, but due to me having more soul energy than you, or mana in a sense, then your abilities won't work on me. I remember actually Captain tried to actually erase me from existence using her Shikai's abilities. He would think in his head, obviously this would be, remember, Soifon, she tried to use her her Shikai's abilities. If you hit someone in the same place, if you sting them in the same place twice, they pretty much die. That didn't work on him. It's called Nigese Kitatsu, I think it's called. But it says like 2 stings. Never mind, I'm gonna stop myself. So, Aizen would output his pressure and use his soul manipulation in a sense, and existence erasure to pretty much output his killer intent on Freya. So Freya would start shaking and all, but she would still keep her mask, like her calm look. As Aizen would say, so I'm gonna leave now, but I'm gonna do notes. If I see any god or goddess go after Belle Cornell with intent to kill, just know he does have full power to kill you, honestly. Honestly, I'm gonna say this, Mrs. Freya, or Miss Freya, you're not married. I don't think you would ever, never mind. But, no god or goddess actually matches the power of Mr. Cornell, which is why you all want him to defeat the Black Dragon. But, without further ado, I'm gonna leave now. As he would disappear, as Freya, she would kind of be mad. This Suigetsu has definitely become a pain. So we then I guess go back to Aizen. He appears back in Belle's mindscape, as he would say, "Oh, so I dealt with our pesky spy, but let's continue with our training." As Belle would say, "Training?" As he would say, "Yeah, you need to know how to wield my blade." So after this, they would start the training, and I'll do a time skip to the first episode where Belle's in the dungeon. So this time he would still have his usual clothes. Number one, Aizen. I don't think Aizen is the type of person to wear armor. It's just it doesn't feel right in a sense to him. So honestly, if you guys are wondering how does Krozu join the Familia, if basically Belle is hey, I want this armor. I mean, I guess I could still have him wear the armor, sometimes. It is light armor, it's not heavy based armor, so it wouldn't be too much of a bore. And I guess Aizen would want Belle to wear more armor if they're going to the lower floors, if they manage to get to the 30th floor or something like that. So like I said, we'll time skip to the day of the first the dungeon, when he first goes to the dungeon. So Hestia would have, I guess, had used her technique to basically talk with Belle when he's in the dungeon, and kind of like he did in canon. She did in canon, forgive me. Like I said, if I get my pronouns wrong, forgive me. I'm not good at pronouns, It's, yeah. But pretty much, Belle would, run into the dungeon as he would see a few monsters, kind of low level, as he would slice them down with Kyoka Suigetsu. And, he would start to go down the stairs slowly but surely, getting down to the 5th floor where all the Minotaurs were escaped to, since that Loki Familia were in the lower floors, but one of the Minotaurs managed to get up to the floors, which is how, I guess, Belle was saved by Eyes. But this time that's not happening. So Belle would then see a Minotaur, as Hestia would then say, start to tell him what the Minotaur is, and that it's pretty strong. So if you defeat him, then it's pretty praiseworthy. As Belle then put both of his hands on his sword, as he would raise his sword above his head before then slicing down, as a huge energy beam would escape from his blade. Pretty much he's just swiping the air, similar to that of Ichigo. When Ichigo was fighting Gijo, he says, "No, that wasn't Getsuga, I was just swiping the air by just using my Ryatsu." That's kind of what Belle did here, since obviously he was taught by Aizen to control your Ryatsu and use it to, I guess, enhance your sword's abilities. So he would then slice down the Minotaur as it would receive a cut on his chest. Not too deep, but it was pretty deep, before blood would spurt out the wound as the Minotaur would roar in agony, before he would rush towards Belle as his high-speed factor would kick in, as Belle would then dodge to the side using one of the newest techniques he learned, which was Shunpo. And when he did the Shunpo, he would feel his lungs, they would feel like they were getting shredded inside. since he's not really used to actually using Shunpo. So yeah, rip Bell. But basically, he would then take a few deep breaths as out of nowhere the Minotaur would appear in front of him. And I guess Bell would quickly react, but he wouldn't get injured either, so that's good. As he would slice down, kind of clashing with the Minotaur's hand, since the Minotaur was trying to like hit Bell, so like he kind of stopped it with his blade. Before then, he would appear like flash dead behind the Minotaur as a cut would, I guess appear on his neck, the Minotaur's neck, as he would fall down, as it would disappear into dust in a sense. Whatever the monsters turn into after they die, it's most likely just like their essence disappearing. As Bell would walk up to the Minotaurs where the Minotaur was, and you would see, I guess, if you defeat like a really high Minotaur or monster in a dungeon, they leave something behind, and you pick it up and you turn it in, and you get pretty good values for it. So a few minutes later, or a few seconds, Aizen would run in, as she would expect the Minotaur to be there, but he would she would then see like Bell standing over the Minotaur's, I guess, where the body was, as she would ask him, like, Bell, if he took down the Minotaur. As he says, a Minotaur? What's a Minotaur? He would kind of play dumb, as he would say, I thought this was just a normal monster. As Aizen would say, no, it was a Minotaur from the 10th floor. As I'm very certain that actually the Loki Familia were in the 10th floor when the Minotaur got up, but I may be wrong. But if I'm wrong, then correct me. But basically, Aizen would be quite surprised. It looks like a level 1. Like, I mean, he looks like pretty new, and he does look like a level 1, which he's like, she's right, since you have to defeat more monsters to level up, and since Bell, this is his first time, so obviously he's gonna be a level 1. So Aizen would say, so how'd you defeat it? As he would show his sword, and he says, this is Kyoka Suigetsu. As Aizen would know the story, as he would say, you mean that Kyoka Suigetsu? As Bell would say, yeah, the legendary sword of Sosuke Aizen. I found it in the shop, and pretty much I didn't die from the curse, so it's proved that I was worthy for the blade. As pretty much Aizen would kind of ask to look at the blade, as he would hand over the blade, and she would start looking at it, kind of being surprised by the design of it, and it would look pretty good. Like, since Aizen is a swordsman and all, you would think a swordsman would look at other blades and kind of see the art, or not the art, but see the hidden beauty of a sword compared to people who don't use swords. So she would then say, it looks elegant. She would think of the word, and she would hand it back, as Belle would say, thank you, Mrs. or Miss or Madam. No, I'm just kidding. But she would say Miss, as Aizen would respond, Aizen Wallenstein. Some people say Wallenstein. I say Wallenstein. I'll say Wallenstein. I'll just say Aizen from now on, honestly. It's really easier. I should say, thank you, Mrs. Wallenstein. Or Miss. I always get Mrs. and Miss wrong. Mrs. means you're married. Never mind. Miss Wallenstein. Before then, he would walk out the dungeon. Pretty much earlier, he defeated a lot of monsters, so he got a lot of magical stones. So he would then head over to the guild when he would meet Aina. Obviously, Aina would obviously become his guild advisor in a sense, and she would then tell Bell if he wants to, I guess, trade in his magical stones for valleys. As she would also be surprised that Bell managed to take out a Minotaur only on the 5th floor, and this was his first time. As Aina would note that he seems to have a lot of potential, but she hopes that he's more careful, and pretty much she would deposit the magical stones and get about, I'd say, 10,000 valleys, since he did defeat a Minotaur, so he got himself pretty good valleys, and he turned in the I guess the remainings of the Minotaur, getting himself another 15,000 valleys before he would walk out with a sacket of valleys. He would then proceed to go back to the Hestia Familia, as he would tell Hestia what happened, and Hestia would kind of be surprised, and she would kind of just act like her usual self, being completely infatuated with Belle. Obviously, I don't know why. It's something Bell carries within his character. Broski is like the Mr. Steal Your Girl, but Broski, like, never mind. Now, pretty much, Bell would sleep for, like, it would have been, like, the evening-ish, since he did spend the whole day in the dungeon, as he would ask Hestia if he want to go to the tavern, as he, pretty much, earlier that morning, he would have met Sir, and she would have pretty much gave him that lunch, just, like, in the canonical timeline. So, like, you know, Hestia would be like, you know, I'm down, and they would head over to the tavern. Now, once they would walk in, Sir would be like, you know, I knew you would come, since, like, Sir would say, you know, if you come back at night, you know, because, like, Sir wanted Bell to spend a lot of money, since, like, it's kind of just, like, a business thing. So, him and Hestia would go in, as, obviously, I don't think there's a goddess discount, but if there is, Bell is getting that. It's not much of a discount, though, but I'm kind of, like, I'm going to add more stuff into this, and I'm kind of being creative and all, as they would walk in, and they would sit down by the bar, as pretty much, Mamma Mia saved them a seat at the bar. Just hearing the name Mamma Mia, that's just, like, kind of funny, not gonna lie. Basically, they would sit down and they would order their stuff, with Hestia, I guess, eating a lot, since, as you know, every time Hestia goes to a public event, like, she turns into, like, never mind, I'm not gonna say that, but basically, she eats a lot, for some reason, and obviously, this means that Bell would obviously order a lot due to her eating a lot, and due to him eating a lot. He did spend the whole day in the dungeon, so he was famished. We would then hear someone, like, talking shit in the background. Obviously, this would be none other than Bet. So we see, like, with Bet, he would start to say, you know, some level 1 came in here and pretty much took our prey, as he would start to talk shit about how Bell pretty much took his kill. I mean, that's Bet, so what do you expect? Because the Loki Familia were hunting down all the Minotaurs, and in Bet's eyes, Bell just took the last kill for the Minotaur, so they lost out on all the possible magical stones. So Bell would kind of get up, he would kind of be a little annoyed, and since he doesn't have, like, he's not like Aizen's reincarnation, he's just, like, a student of Aizen in a sense. I want to do something other than reincarnation, because Meister told me that if you do reincarnation, you're simply just replicating the personality of the character onto the character that you're doing the reincarnation for, so there wouldn't be much character development. But if I kept his personality and gave him the power, he would receive much character development, doing his character changing due to him getting that power, and now I'm on the tangent. But pretty much Bell would get up, as he would walk over to the table Bet was sitting at, and the rest of the Loki Familia, as he would say, so who's this person? Obviously kind of being sarcastic, saying that was pretty much him. As Bet would be like, you know, hey, it's you took our, you know, kill. As pretty much Bell would say, honestly, I mean, if you're that weak and you let a Minotaur, like, escape onto the 5th floor, you know, people could have died, you know, come on. I think you should just swallow your pride. I mean, if you really want to, we can take this outside, and I'll show you what's, you know, what power I carry. It's pretty much Bet would be getting up, as the rest of the Loki family would kind of, like, sit him down, mostly, like, Riveria and the rest of the Loki Familia, saying, you know, because, like, Broski was drunk in, like, 1 drink, as Bell would kind of make a remark saying, it seems you can't hold your alcohol. You had 1 cup and you're already flustered. I mean, obviously, because alcohol, never mind. And, you know, Bet would kind of grunt, as, you know, Bell would then say, well, I'm gonna go now. As pretty much, I guess what happened was they kind of just did a short session of bantering, and Bell would go back and sit down in the seat next to Hestia, as they would continue to eat their dinner before, after that, they would head back to the church they were residing in. As Bell then looked on the outside, as, you know, he would say, we need to get some more members, and we should probably get a better Familia house. This house, I don't think that works, since it's only me and you, and, you know, it works for both of us, but, like, if we invite more members, you know, we're gonna need to upgrade this place. As he would then tell Hestia that I'm gonna go to the dungeon a lot, and I'm gonna, like, get a lot of valleys so we can renovate this place. You know, as Hestia would be, like, you know, kind of excited and all, since, you know, she'd like to see the fact that this church gets, like, upgraded. Like, think of it, if this church actually gets into, like a whole ass mansion or something like that, similar to the season 3 Familia house, that'd be pretty cool. Like, more members would be prompted to join. So yeah, so Bell and Hestia would, you know, fall asleep, as, yeah, that'll be the end of this part. honestly, yeah, I didn't really go over much. I think I only went over like episode 1 or 2, I think. So like there's a lot to go over. But without further ado, guys, I hope you enjoy this what if, and I hope you have a great day. But without further ado, guys, roll that outro.